Hey guys, it's Melanie, and today's video is going to be a little DIY. This is something I've never tried before. This is something that I was pretty nervous about because I didn't want to frick it up. So this is kind of just like an idea. It's not exactly a tutorial. Like, I kind of tried to make it a tutorial, but it was more just like bringing you guys along with my little art thing. I don't know what I'm saying, but basically here's what the finished product looks like. I also want to apologize because I filmed this in Canada when I was staying with my grandma, so the filming might not be the very best, but hopefully you guys still get the idea. And if you want like a more in-depth, better tutorial, now that I actually know how to do it, I can totally do that for you guys. You can also embroider like many different things, but I embroidered this little mini Kanken here. This is what the finished product looks like, and I'm really digging it. I think it looks adorable, and it's such a great way to personalize it. Of course, I looked up inspiration on Pinterest because where else do I get inspired from things? I don't know. I love Pinterest, okay? I saw ones where people like wrote their names and stuff, which I also think is really cool. And I've also seen people embroider something similar around like the Converse logo or on their shoes, on jeans. You can embroider so many things. Not gonna lie, my thumb hurt really bad for the next couple days just because my fingers are weak. I'm not sure. I think it was definitely worth it. I love how this looks, and I'm so excited to use this, and I'll know which Kanken is mine because every basic girl has a Kanken now. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and hopefully my explanations and stuff make a little bit of sense. If you want a more in-depth tutorial, make sure to let me know and I'll be sure to do that. But I really like how this turned out, so I'm gonna stop talking and we're gonna get straight into the little montage-y tutorial-ish thing. Yeah.
Basically, all you're gonna need for your supplies is a thick needle and some embroidery thread, which is basically the same stuff you use for making friendship bracelets. And you're just gonna start off by threading it through the needle and tying a knot on one side. Just remember that you don't need to thread both sides through and tie the knot around both, so it's only one piece, if that makes sense. One of my biggest tips for this entire thing is that practice makes perfect, just like any other craft. So I really strongly recommend practicing with your embroidery thread and trying different techniques, either on like a piece of paper towel like I did here, or you could simply use paper or like scrap fabric. And I just watched tutorials on YouTube and looked up little tutorials on like Pinterest and stuff and practiced myself. I used one main technique throughout this entire process, and this is me trying as best as I can to show you guys and explain how I did it. But basically you thread the embroidery thread through one hole and back through that same hole, and then there's a little loop that you're gonna leave there, and then from the underside you're gonna poke the needle back up and through that loop. Once you've done that, you just want to pull it tight so that everything is nice and secure, and then thread it back down through the same hole there. And basically this is just going to give it the effect of like a little petal, I guess, which is what I use for the petals of all my flowers and for leaves and stuff like that. So I'm just going to show you guys the same thing. Once again, you're going to go through the same center hole, which is basically the center of your flower. Put it back down through that same hole. So basically you're gonna go through the center multiple times, leaving a little loop, and then you're going to stick the needle from the underside up through that loop wherever you want the petal to end, and then go over that and pull it in securely and tight to finish off the petal. And then you're just going to repeat this process as many times as you want for the desired flower that you want. This can make the flower look very different depending on how many times you do it and depending on what type of flower you want to do. So if it's a sunflower, it'll probably have more petals and they will be smaller compared to like a daisy or something like that. And this is what my finished practice flower looks like. Now I tried to sketch out a rough draft of what I wanted it to look like with a pencil, but since my backpack's kind of dark and I don't know, it just didn't really show up, so I kind of just said frick that, and then I started embroidering it, which I wouldn't really recommend, but I'm kind of impulsive and it ended up working out okay. It was fine. I was also looking at a reference picture for the majority of this time. But most of it I just did by imagining it in my head and kind of just going with the flow and whatever looked good. I just started out with doing some little vines. Here I decided to add a big sunflower, and basically I just sewed back and forth a bunch of times to make the center of it, and then did the same petal technique around the edges of it to make it look like a sunflower. And I kind of pre-imagined it in my head where I wanted the big main flowers to be, which was basically like on the top and bottom of it, because I wanted them to be spaced out kind of evenly. Here I decided to add some petals to my sunflower just to really finish it off and tie it in. I used 2 different shades of green just to give a little bit of contrast, and then I also used 2 different shades for my flowers, which was like a light lavender purple and then yellow for like my sunflowers and stuff. And I just really recommend choosing a color palette that you think goes well with your backpack and goes well with each other, just so that it all looks cohesive in the end. Here I'm doing another technique to mimic very, very small flowers, almost like buds or like little baby flowers, I guess, at the tips of like the vines and stuff like that. All I did was pull the thread through, tie a little knot, and then thread it back down over, and that just makes it look like a little tiny dot. And here you can see what that finished flower looks like, and it's very, very simple, so I do recommend doing stuff like this to fill up majority of the border. So I'm just continuing to sew. Here I'm doing some little lavender and just different types of flowers. I really recommend doing this while you watch a show or something in the background. I think I was watching a movie or something with my family, but it is quite a tedious process and it does take some time. I believe that all in all, I worked on this over the span of 2 nights, and I probably sat and sewed for like a consecutive hour to 2 hours both nights. So all in all, it's maybe like a 4 or 5 hour project. But I would say that this project is very, very rewarding. Just seeing it come together in the end is super, super fun. And also just the fact that you can personalize it as much as you like. So if you want to be done faster, you can make it a lot simpler. And this is what the finished product looks like. I'm super, super happy with how it came out.
Okay guys, so that was the video, and that was how I spruced up my Kanken. And yeah, I really want to do this with more things, not necessarily Kankens, like I would if the backpacks weren't like $100, but you know, it's still really fun, and there's so many different ways you can do it with different colors of thread and like different types of flowers and stuff. And I know there's also a lot of different embroidery techniques. I definitely am not super skilled at those, and I don't know all of those. I took kind of like the simple ones and just push them all together, which I still think it turned out pretty good. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you want to see more like DIYs or little upcycly things like this, make sure to let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!